Ama bu defa onları yerle bir etmek için buradayım.
Her şey bitti. Çok geç kaldı bu savaşa. Beni orada The mythical beasts fall. Wildcats roar.
Alles stand in Flammen. Aber jetzt ist die Zeit für Rache.
Napotkałem na swojej drodze wiele trudności, jednak tym razem nic mnie nie powstrzyma. ¿Quieres demostrar al resto que es momento de brillar?
On vous a manqué. Il est temps de reprendre ce qui nous appartient.
Hey, did you miss us? Of course we did. We're back today for EU Masters Semifinals. I'm Laura and I will be joined by Trouble Inc. and Namira. How are you guys doing?
I'm here.
So long.
It's been a while. I've missed this couch.
The couch has missed you.
All good? Trouble?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Back on the side, working with you again.
I mean, France
quite a
is
while.
good again, so I had to come back some.
When was the last time we won again? When was that?
Let's not talk about it, but rather
France started
focus
winning low,
on
popped up.
what we've seen so far in the quarterfinals, guys. You were on the broadcast, actually. You had more insights, maybe, as I did, on what happened. 3-0. Back-to-back-to-back, a reverse sweep. We're going to take it from the lower part of the bracket as we won't see K-Corp today. But yeah, for me, that was the most surprising one, Namira, because you look at Istanbul Wildcats and Casey. For me, that's a finals.
And that's exactly what Sam and I thought as well when we were on the cast for that. We were prepared for crazy early games leading into some team fights later on, but really it was this Carmen Corp blowing out the early game, and Wildcats really didn't have that much to say. So that finals potential matchup which we were talking about really didn't come to fruition.
And when it comes to Macko and Movistar Riders, Trouble, how do you reflect on this series? Do they play to the expectations you had coming into these matchups?
When we're coming to Macko and Movistar Riders, I feel like this was a pretty clean sweep from both of the sides, both very decisive. I expected a lot more fight coming out of BK Rogue, coming from the LFL. Usually the teams are very good at adapting in the best of scenarios, but I feel like Movistar Riders, pedal to the metal, or is it metal to the... Pedal to the metal. There you go. Just 3-0 the series quickly.
The fight, though, I feel, was from GO and SK Prime. Maybe not the close series that I was expecting, honestly, but that river sweep, honestly, was so hype.
Was there a fight? It felt like a quick 3-0 could be out from SK Prime, and they were so close to closing this game out. But GO were pulling out the veins on Jezu, and honestly, Game 5 was decided by a smite on the Elder Dragon 40 minutes in.
Oh yeah, NLC champion Linces, by the way, in the jungle as well. We used to have him over there.
Okay, a little bias.
And it's great to see so many of these great players, again, starting to make those journeys for themselves in the ERL system.
We're entering the last phases of the competition, guys. How do you reflect on what happened so far? The biggest surprises, of course, we mentioned Wildcats falling to Carmine Corp. I think it's the biggest one for me, but how do you reflect on what happened?
That's the headline. But if you got the bullet points under it, I think particularly GTZ and Macho making it this far in the first place, it speaks so much for the non-accredited ERLs and the Portuguese scene and the Italian scene getting so much value out of this year.
In trouble?
Yes. I'm having trouble with my sound, so I cannot hear a lot of the things. I'm really sorry, guys.
Okay, maybe we can triage this, maybe as we're going to move on to introducing the teams we have today, maybe. The biggest surprise for me being Italy making it so far. We were wondering if it was a fluke. I don't think it's a fluke now when you look at how far and how much they've grown over the years. But when you look at the rivalry between Italy and Spain, I'm not sure that it's been so much a rivalry so far, especially because Macho kept on ramping up over the years. Spain always has been established as one of the main regions we have. 4-3 in favor of Spain, though.
But that's like over 5 years. Like it's 7 best of ones in 5 years. When you consider like your France, Spain, particularly Prime League as well in there as well, they've probably had 10 times the amount of face-ups compared to Italy and Spain here. And that's partly because Italy hasn't had that much success at this tournament. Matchco, though, have really started to get the entire community behind them. Whether there were Matchco haters before in the PGNat scene, they're supporting them now. And with the Mamba mentality they've been bringing, they know that the job isn't done and they really want to finish it off today.
And it was also not very much of a rivalry, right? Wherever PG Nat's team was actually included in the equation, it was usually the underdog, the dark horse that maybe they take 1 or 2 games and upset a group.
In spring, though, Movistar Riders faced off against Macho, and it ended up being 1-1 in groups. But how much have both these teams grown since then? How do you reflect on their improvements?
I feel like...
Oh, no, you go for it.
I feel like it's great to actually see them evolve their game through from spring to summer. I feel right now they look a lot more structured in what they want to do in game. So I definitely feel like it's a step up from spring. A lot of people even doubted them in spring. They're like, well, okay, easy group, you got into the quarterfinals, now you can go home. Right here, not only do they do the back-to-back quarters, but they advance onto the semis as well. And I feel like with the structure that they have right now, we heard it from Seaboy in the interview as well. They're actually friends. They're having fun outside of the game as well, which is what shows when they're bonding in game 2.
And I think on an individual level, you know, they've come together as a group. I think that PG Nats teams have always played well as a team, but sometimes individually they couldn't face up to the likes of your LFL teams, to your LVP teams. I think even now they've managed to step up in that degree.
I mean, honestly, for me, that's what makes the most sense and the biggest story when you think about this lineup is the fact that no one really had, and bear with me here, no one really had expectations coming from the Italian league a couple years back, and they kept on becoming the troublemaker of these kind of competitions and rising to the occasion up until the point where they made back-to-back quarterfinals. As you said, having the fan support, for me, it's the ultimate shonen story, honestly, for the region and this lineup as well.
And that's so cool because I remember back to Macho when they were going 0-6 in group stages. I think that was like spring 22, sometime around then. That was actually when the Carmine Core fans kind of saw this kind of team and said, you know what, out of all the other teams we're going to get behind, these plucky underdogs, we're going to get behind them. And of course, they had a group with them here as well. They 2-0'd Carmine Core. There's a potential that they could match up later into the finals as well. So much kind of emotiveness behind this team.
I mean, I lost a bet to this opening game, but we're not going to talk about this.
Did you enjoy that catch-up? Yeah.
I haven't done it yet. I'm supposed to do it tonight, though. Italian fans, bear with me. I will hold on to my wall. But on a game, honestly, when you think about their trajectory, Trouble, 9-0, undefeated so far. But you had something to say about this run and a bit of nuance to bring, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, going 9-0 when you're coming in as not one of the huge guns over at EMEA Masters is huge. You have not lost yet, but this is also the point, right? They went into the quarterfinals, technically into the quote-unquote easiest matchup of them all. GTZ was also an underdog coming from the Portuguese scene. They made history themselves, right? But technically, they were the easiest opponent to face out of all the other monsters that were on the bracket. So I feel like technically today, going up against Movistar, who have showed so much adaptation also in draft, is going to be the big challenge for them.
That's the thing for me. When I look at Movistar, I see a new hope for Spain in the sense that they won the regional league, but they incarnate a completely new set of players here in EMEA. And can they live to what Heretics established last year when they won actually the trophy? Because they're supposed to be the new hope for the league.
That is a very in-depth question in a lot of ways, because I think as a region, Superliga absolutely deserves to have a lot of promise for it. It has to have that kind of confidence, right? They did win this time last summer, and they've had some great teams come out of that region. I think particularly when you look at some of the big players on this roster, like Super, stepping up and being accounted for, like Isma being such a psychopath juggler, getting all of the big engages too. I think this team has a lot to really bring to the table, and we've seen that, of course, through their quarterfinals as well. They blasted that 3-0 against BK Rogue.
I feel like what makes them so unique is the fact that, yes, they're coming from a Superliga, like a fired-up region in general. They like to brawl and skirmish a lot, but these guys fit the bill because they not only do it individually in every single lane, like Maki plays a lot of carries in the top lane up there. Every single one of them can carry whenever they want. It's the fact that they do come together in these skirmishes and they pull up ahead, and they've already done it against the powerhouse of the LFL, BK Rogue. They can only go on here.
I mean, that's the thing, right? When you look at the way they won against BK Rogue, I feel like it came from early game snowball mostly. But this is what you can expect from this team, playing really aggressive, getting the ball running from the very beginning of the game. And here, I'm sorry, but my boys could just not answer, and it's going to be interesting, especially coming against Macho today.
And to add more onto that as well, jungler Isma ended up doing an interview, I believe, with Eclipsios, where he was saying, actually, we are so aggressive early and so good at playing around that part of the game. The only team we are worried about is the Istanbul Wildcats. They are out now. Now, that was, of course, before the tournament even began. And I don't think that a lot of people put Macho on the table as one of these teams that would be contending. And I do think that Macho have had some good early game successes as well, not in the same brawling style. But I think now, when we're getting around to this matchup, I wonder if Isma would revisit that statement. And I wonder how early games are going to look today, especially when you have games like this, when Movistar Riders have absolutely exploded through the bot lane, particularly getting super on Zeri so far ahead.
And anything you want to see more from them, maybe trouble coming in today when you know how they've been winning games so far and how much they can get challenged.
Honestly, I've been feeling a little bit the adaptation with a lot of the drafts that they've been making.
Yeah.
I feel like there could be a point here if they cannot break through that bot lane, because I feel like Macho's bot lane is also very strong at brawling on the 2v2. You have ways to go towards Marky up in the top lane with his Jaxes, his Renekton. You get him ahead, then you suddenly have contenders for these river fights that Macho likes to pull out.
And talking about Macho a bit more here, how do they win games? How did they do it? Because to stay undefeated in this competition, I don't think it's an easy thing to do. It comes from the early game also as well. We'll get a bit to the how have they been challenged enough yet. But again, they get the ball running from the early game, and this is how they create leads.
And I don't think they're going to be challenged again. Can I offer some Macho a Hopium? You can have some spaghetti here as well, Lord. You see, because I think that Macho are very, very good. If you see here, yeah, you take your spaghetti as well. We're all armed up here.
I promise.
The thing about Macho is that they're not going to brawl the same way that Movistar Riders do. They're not going to kill you across the board, but they do still get gold. They get that from so many resources across the map, and I think particularly as soon as objectives start to spawn, like the Herald and the Dragon as well, they are very good at their first couple of brawls of the game, and that can get them ahead despite it not being as bloody as someone like Movistar Riders.
But the thing is that they get this coordination in the early game. We'll see which part of the map they want to focus on, but also it translates into a comfortable mid-game, and they're really good at team fights. It's not just the early part of the game that they exceed at, it's also how to snowball this league and just bring the wins in the end.
Absolutely. I feel like the way that they're setting up for the early Dragons is what has helped them in further on team fights. The fact that they know how to push in through mid lane. We've seen it a lot in their games in particular. They'll drop down the Rift Herald and then will use the pressure of that after they have pre-set down their wards over onto the Dragon or the Baron area, which means they have full control at any particular point, whether it's pushing through mid, as you can see right here over in the Dragon area, they do have the first control, and then they are not afraid to actually start the brawl.
I think a lot of this also comes from some of the picks that they have too. You can see a lot of playmakers coming out of mid lane, which help them in those first level 6 fights of the game.
And I think you have to appreciate the way they set up for these fights, right? It's just not that they spawn at the right moment and at the right time in game. They also have the good vision control and know where to pick the fights that are going to bring them the advantage that they need later on in the game. But is it going to be enough today? Is it going to be enough against a team that can challenge them on these points as well? And for me, we know that the early game is going to be really important for both teams, but I'm just wondering, from what we've seen from these two teams, who can have the upper hand in that matter?
Before this year, PG Nats teams would get to this level of competition, or even just groups, and they get blown out in laning phase, they get blown out in the early skirmishes, like teams which are very good at killing you early, like Movistar Riders, and they wouldn't get to those late game team fights. If they can survive that early game like they have done this year, though, I think they have more than enough chance to make this a very fun series.
I feel like when it comes to both of these teams, we saw a stat that came up on the screen right now. They're both fairly good at getting these early game leads, as we talked, but they're through completely different routes. When it comes to Movistar, they're a very bloodthirsty team. They like to fight. They see champion, they kill champion. On the other side, we mentioned you have Macho. They like to set up for dragons. They stack them very early on. They play textbook League of Legends. Now, when it comes to a fight of a best of 5 between these two completely different playstyles, it comes down to who cracks first and tries to adapt to who. Are we gonna see a Macho that's gonna play for that early game brawling, get a little bit more brawl-heavy champions in the early game that scale a little bit quicker rather than going for these full team fights later on? Or is, on the other hand side, Movistar going to break down and say, you know what, let's take it a little bit slower, play for these objectives. We know that we have an AD carry that's absolutely cracked at carrying these fights, so let's play for him.
I mean, that's the thing. When I look at these team fights, especially, the thing that strikes me when I think about Macho is you got to pick Maokai, you got to pick the Rumble with it. You want to make stuff happen in the top lane, and I'm just wondering if they're going to be able to get a grasp at these champions today, and what is the purpose that the top laner can serve in that sense, Trouble, when you look at when you look at ACD and what he's been doing and what kind of other champions he can
One
pull
thing
here.
that I'm so happy about ACD in general is that this guy has been a carry top laner for the longest time that we've known him. And if you look at his stats, they have a reason for giving him that. I remember his Rumble was incredible. His Gangplank as well. The second this guy joins the fight, even if he's late a couple of seconds, the second he joins, the fight is absolutely over. And I feel like Gangplank should definitely be something that Movistar have their eye on.
And I think when you've got like someone like Super on the bot side of the map from Movistar Riders, that's going to be a big push of heads in the bot lane to see which AD carry can get ahead. I think ACD, regardless of whether you try and put him behind, we've seen so many times him go like 0-4, 0-5 in laning phase. I think he even did that back in spring.
Doesn't matter.
And then just explodes in the mid game like with one of these big carries. He's such a force for his team. I'm very interested to see if he's going to get himself a carry matchup that can scale.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if Movistar can do anything against it, honestly, and present more arguments that the rest of the team have been able to so far. Any quick prediction on this one? It's so hard. I'm not even going to
I'm going to go to my my carbohydrate
have
friends.
the,
I'm going to bring out our long stretch as a pasta. I think it is going to be a 3-1 to Macho. I think that early game, Movistar Riders might have some advantages, but Macho are so good at finding the right skirmishes. I know it might be a bit crazy, it might be a bit out there. They're undefeated for a reason.
Yeah, but when you're used to being undefeated like this, the moment you have a bit more difficulties, are you able to strike back? And I think for me, that's going to be the key here. And they have to draft themselves good conditions. We have Macho playing on the blue side here. What kind of bans do you want to see Trouble in the first place?
Honestly, I'd like to see bans such as the Maokai go through here. I don't think you should allow Macko to have a very strong jungler in the hands of Seaboy. He's so good at facilitating and playing towards the bot side of the map. So things like Sejuani, potentially Maokai, are going to be S tier for both this team. Movistar don't want none of that. They don't even want the thought of Gangplank going through
no
from
piracy
ACD.
here. We're completely legit.
I would expect a Rumble to be banned out as well. It's a very B1able champion too, so...
I really like this Zeri ban. I think that when you have someone like Zeri in the meta right now, first item static shiv, it becomes really hard to play out wave states and setup for the objectives, which we know Macho really like doing. I wonder if Macho are going to go towards, I mean, the Maokai is going to be gone. It wouldn't surprise me if they lock in a lot of heavy engage. I think Rel becomes very important. You can first pick that, flex that between jungle and support. Tristana is the last real power pick here, which I think could really flip this draft.
And the Maokai ban being thrown here. I guess that's the one that makes the most and can create a lot of stress during fights. And we saw how Ch was strong with this kind of champions. LeBlanc being banned. I would expect Xayah first pick here, maybe?
I think it has to be Tristana, though. I think Tristana is so strong. Nothing beats Tristana pushing in mid lane. That's immediately locked in. I think you're now looking at Sejuani maybe as your last real power pick from the jungle in terms of the engaging picks. Rel as well.
I would say I think Xayah is a huge powerhouse in the current meta, especially when you have things like the Zeri completely out of the picture. I feel like she's just so good at tanking Sejuani ultimates, and with Sejuani open right here, I feel like it could definitely be a Xayah Rakan sort of duo to get out of the way. Rakan, a very potent champion when it comes to lane, engages, disengages. Now that was a champion that for Scout we picked for the first time at the EMEA Masters versus BK Rogue to take it away from Chocolate, and he was absolutely unstoppable on the telegram.
Are we sure it's going mid though?
There is the chance that it goes jungle.
Is my question.
I think it's pretty good into the Tristana because when she starts to jump forwards, then you get some ability to kind of like peel back and play through that minefield. Rel's going to get taken away. Now,
double flex then.
I think that the Rel would have been nice to have for Macho, of course, to have that extra ability to reach the backline. Of course, you mentioned that Xayah is that kind of flex pick. The thing is, or rather as the power pick, the thing about the Xayah is that Xayah is very, very good when you know someone is diving into you. Rel does exactly that. You already have one champion which you're sort of neutralizing with this double AD carry comp now.
Now, would you like to lock in the Alistar, or do you want to match? There you go. Oh.
I think they're answering your question.
I also really love the Alistar reply right there, because there's a lot of talk about cancelling the Rel with the Alistar, or cancelling the Alistar with the Rel, and who does it first. But I feel like locking in the Alistar down in the bot lane, not only do you lock in a bunch of engage that you have later on in the fight, but you also almost guarantee that this Rel might end up in the jungle because you don't want to take the matchup down bot.
So guys, when I look at this draft here, it's standard from both teams. It's the champions that brought them the most success so far in the competition. How do you want to see the rest of the draft evolve?
So I think right now, because you now have the Kai'Sa involved and the Talia, I think that Movistar Riders, they do outrange right now, and that means that from the side of Macho, you need to have a way to make to reach that backline. I think the Alistar is a great component to do that. It's Click's Alistar, Click being one of the greatest Italian players ever and one of the real MVPs of this squad, will very much help with that, but you need something else to join in that engage. The question is, what can you do that with? I would imagine something like a Sejuani is going to get banned away from by Movistar Riders as well. You don't want Click going alone into the backline.
It's crazy how much jungle bans have been thrown, but I guess it makes sense, given how active they can both be in the early game. The Karthus being taken away here. That's interesting.
So my eyes fall straight onto that top lane for me, because Acidi and Marky have yet to pick their champions, and they're two players who really like to play their fighters up in the top side of the map, and they're not afraid to actually go at it. Luckily for the side of Marky, of course, he will be able to have that counter pick on the R5, which means that Acidi is left to blind pick. Now, of course, we've seen a bunch of blind pick Renekton's up in the top lane. We've seen a bunch of Aatrox blind picks up in the top lane. Sejuani is the only other facilitating jungler that has been left alongside, of course, the Maokai, the two S-tiers. And I'd love to see what it's going to be paired up with right here, because you have Talia in the mid lane, I'm assuming. Rel is guaranteed to go bot lane now. So you are picking for the top lane. You've got the Sejuani, you can play for top.
I think that on the side of Matchka, they might have to lock in something like a Trundle. It's not going to be carry top lane for Acidi. So it's going to be team fight impact. Thing is, though, given the last champions left, and you think, okay, you've lost every long-range carry top lane there is, you're not going to be able to layer a Rumble ult down or a Gangplank ult. This will help mitigate that range advantage, and that's what they want. Now the question is, what can you lock in that jungle? I think it has to be that Trundle. It works well into the Sejuani. The Pillar can make it easier for someone like the Ornn to land their ult too. It's not great, but out of the remaining picks, that does fit the bill. I think Movistar, they just want anything now which can just continue to protect the backline. Maybe something like a Scion wouldn't be amiss here.
And I even think that from a 2v2 scenario, it gives you more things to play with, I think, in the early game.
I want Jax, I want Renekton, I want something that can actually force fights on the side lane, because looking at Alistar, Ornn and Trundle with a very safe backline. Usually the problem when you pick Trundle is that you don't have Engage anywhere else, and you've run out of junglers, so you have to pick Trundle to counter the Sejuani. But right here you've got Alistar, you've got Ornn, the front to back is impeccable. So I feel like Marky has to be the pressure point on a side lane, and he does have a champion that can actually force Ornn back on the side lane, paired up with the Sejuani.
Can you really access the champions in the backline here, EMEA? Is what I'm wondering, because when you have Ornn, when you have Trundle, when you have Alistar, everything, when you have even Xayah as a champion, Tristana that can just replace, what are you going to do with this champion that offers you a lot of tools?
This is going to be a very complex strategy. You're going to wait for Kai'Sa to press W, and then you're going to wait for Kai'Sa to press W again.
If it hits.
And if it hits. Well, I think what you're really looking to do is play around your range advantage, use that Sejuani ult to pin down the first target, and hopefully you don't need to reach the backline targets before the front line is dead.
The plan is clear. Let's see what the casters have to say about this first draft and take us to the first game. Back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Laura, and of course, Troba and EMEA on the desk. I am Just Oshin. I am joined by the joyful Jamada, and we're going to be bringing you the in-game action here for most of the games here today, barring some absolutely, you know, kind of act of God bringing one of us down. But hey, man, I've seen some crazy stuff in esports. I'm not going to rule it out.
Yeah, you never know, man. Like, maybe we everything just erupts and no longer will you have coverage from us. Anyway, we're here, game number 1. Draft's looking about where we'd expect both these teams to land, right? You and I were having discussions, and of course the desk were about how Movistar, they love their early aggression. I think this comp definitely spells that, right? Renekton, Sejuani, Talia as well to roam over to the side lanes. We saw what they did in their quarterfinals matchup, rather. We'll see if they can match that same level of aggression, whereas for Matchko, a lot more passive gameplay, I think, to be expected with this kind of composition, waiting for those level 6s, waiting till the mid-game.
Absolutely. I think for Matchko, they kind of, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. 6-0. Like, they've yet to drop a game at the EMEA Masters Summer. Like, that's the big ticket here. And you can say anything you want, but they took down Carmine Corp twice, and Carmine Corp took down the Wildcats. So, you know, ifs, buts, and maybes all taken around. But, I mean, like, yes, this is kind of how Matchko have done the entirety of groups, and even in their quarterfinal against GTZ. This is the way they play. They like to have Acidi on something who can just kind of absorb a lot of this pressure, keep himself kind of safe, don't really kind of expecting him to kind of explode off and eventually just become a big team fight monster. Does it with the Gangplank, the Rumble. We're going to hopefully see him do it with the Ornn today.
Yeah, exactly. Acidi's engages are going to be very crucial. You can see across the board for Matchko, the engage options outside of that Ornn, relatively limited, right? It's more about Alistar, you know, trying to find flank engages or just like, you know, flash forward, get those ones in. And with the kind of response tools of a Sejuani, Talia as well, to match, that might be a little bit difficult. So Acidi is going to have to be on his game once we hit the mid game. And ensure that he is finding the mark. So take a step back for now. Junglers both starting on their blue sides, so it seems like at the minute Isma could make an early visit up towards Marky. Renekton and Sejuani, of course, such a powerful duo. If you can get that Renekton going on a side lane in a game like this, it can definitely make things a little bit awkward, not only in the 1v1, but then once you bring that Renekton down into those bigger skirmishes around the Dragons and the Barons, become a big, big menace in the backline.
Absolutely. I love that you kind of highlight Isma as well, because Isma, for me, has been the highlight player of the Movistar Riders. He has just been so damn active to try and make sure that he is making things, and specifically around that bot side, comboing up with Alvaro to make sure they can get those early snowballs going for something like a Kai'Sa, even just getting the extra tankiness into the likes of a Rel. So oppressive if you're able to make that mark work. So we'll see how they're able to kind of work around this map. I will say, if they're going for a dive on top side, it is still an Ornn, the mage, assassin, tank, bruiser of all time, but now 6'10". Yeah, he's gonna get flashed on, knocked back, and yeah, he knows he's dead to rights. He's not gonna try and flash, or is he? Yes, he is. Just about gets himself away. I'm surprised he was able to get out of that one there, but flash still burned.
As am I. I need to see a replay, but I think Isma's Q knocking back 6'10" actually procs the Unraveled Earth. So once he rocket jumped out, he wasn't stunned once he landed on the other end. Not sure if I quite read that interaction correctly, but either way, 6'10" escapes, we'll get a reself and be forced to teleport now to topside dive angle. Seems like if Marky can get an empowered ability procced here, which I think he should be able to as he clears away this minion, this dive looks pretty doable. Let's see how SD responds.
It's hard though, it's hard. They're gonna lose the minions now in a couple of seconds, and you can see there's a double knock-up, nicely done there by Acidi, who's taking down a little bit more. Marky gets killed back, and yes, it's a 1-for-1, but that is always worth it for the weak side, top side.
Yeah, it feels good for Acidi, right? He didn't even really miss minions either. Everything was dead underneath the tower by the time he died, so no XP really being missed. If anything, actually, you can see on the XP bars, he's ahead of Marky at the minute in the XP department. Let's see if Frescawi is going to have to lose his flash here for this gank.
Well, he's getting a hell of a lot of damage. Ooh. Nice trigger discipline from Fritowski, but he's not going to lose his flash today, but he's only just used his teleport, so he's going to have to go for a full reset. As we can see in the bot side, everyone just kind of realizing they can go a bit ham now as the junglers made their presence known on the rest side of the map. So already we're seeing Macho kind of saying, look, we're not going to let you just dictate to us when and where these fights are happening.
Yeah, going toe-to-toe, a lot of pressure down in the mid lane, trying to bleed this into the jungle here. Curious about what 6'10" was going to do with all of this free time now that Frescawi was forced back, but it seems like he's just going to continue to put pressure on that mid lane tier 1 as Alvaro really eating meaty trades here. Not necessarily the best start for the Movistar bot lane, who, again, in their previous series were really on fire. It was a lot about Super in that quarterfinals. Isma as well, I think on the back foot of it all, was really demonstrating how powerful a jungler he can be and was propelling Movistar to very, very powerful heights. Need to definitely look to repeat that same level of tempo here in the semis against Macho.
I love that you bring that up, tempo, because it really did feel like Movistar just ran away with their quarterfinals. It didn't really feel that close at all, just because of how much kind of tempo. They were in the enemy jungle all the way at tier 2s, even at, you know, kind of inhibitor turrets, looking to try and make some plays down. And it meant that Supa was picking up double kill, triple kills very regularly and very early on. So right now, we were having a little bit of discussion about it. It is about Macho kind of keeping tabs on Isma, making sure that he can, you know, kind of move forward and kind of get himself into a, you know, keeping Macho alive without having Isma having such a big impact. But now you can see him kind of sneaking in, using that power of vision and just keeping pressure here onto 6'10".
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to keep a little bit of pressure down with no flash. Turn gank's always very, very powerful. Will he get this chicken? It's actually a bit of an early smite from C-Boy, but it's not going to get stolen away. The Level 5 will come in, and the pressure that was starting to mount towards the mid lane will just be cleared away. All of this vision should be picked up for the most part. Maybe a couple of lasting wards, but not the end of the world. This Macho will no longer have to suck up that gank. But Isma will pilot over towards the top side. As you can see, Acidi is actually quite low, so they could be angling for a dive here. Alvaro is also freeing up Frescawi for a potential move over. Level 6, but not a lot of mana. Has a biscuit. He's not going to be able to get all of his spells out here. That's the big thing. So let's see how Movistar deal with this and how Acidi responds again.
Yeah, well, they're going to try and maybe make this one work. There is the Weaver's Wall as they try to come out. The Ornn Horn here. It's not going to really kind of stop him from doing everything, but it's a clean dive regardless, and Movistar do get their man. But it does mean that you're trading it back for a dragon, so not all is lost here for Macho.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Movistar are actually quite lax on the dragon taking in the previous series, despite all of the priority that they had in the bottom lane. So I'm expecting that they're going to, with all of this mounted pressure for Marky that continues to stack up, pick up the Herald very early on. Oh my god, that interrupt!
They get the interrupt, they get the flick back, and they get themselves the kill. Really well done there by Alvaro, and honestly, 6'10", he just needed to kind of back himself away a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I just really didn't expect 610 to get caught out by that, but Alvaro, really good job. C-Boy might be buying off a little bit more than he should be chewing on here. Isma.
No. Not quite able to make anything work there. A little bit of a cheeky invade there from C-Boys. He thought he had the timing on it, but some supportal combat alongside the junglers means the AD carry's kind of going there. But let's have a look again at this mid lane, because again, just a great interrupt there to stop him completely.
So that's the thing. The auto attack when you're in that form, as Rail, once you've just remounted, it works as a lunge. So even if you dash away from it, you flash, the animation is still going to go off and you're still going to get dragged back. And in this case, it interrupts the rocket jump. So really, really nice from Alvaro just to find that little window. And of course, 610 still no flash from that earlier gank. So really, really well done to just punish that. Now he'll have flash. He'll be a little bit safer in about 10 seconds time. But still, a lot of pressure has been put down towards the mid lane, and of course the top side for Movistar. Macko has been a lot more about the bottom side, but there's not really a lot to show for it outside of that dragon, right? So you hope for the Macko faithful that they'll continue to try and stack that up and try and soak the pressure a little more efficiently through this mid lane. But again, Movistar hovering around here, looking for more angles, but FLICKR has a good read on it this time around.
Yeah, FLICKR just sitting off to the side, making sure nobody gets anything funny in that mid lane. 610 just got his flashback. He'd like to keep it for a little bit longer than most, as we can now see C-Boy just kind of moving up towards this top side, making sure that they're getting something out of this kind of constant pressure in the mid lane. And honestly, if they keep picking up objectives, that's the big thing. They are still down, but it's not going to mean the biggest thing in the world if they can continuously pick up the neutrals.
Yeah, so this is the awkward thing. Trundle at this stage in the game has got really solid targets to use that subjugate on, and skirmishing is very, very potent. So Movistar need to force numbers here, which you can see they're doing. They're bringing up Alvaro. Even technically, I think Super might have prior down there, but we don't really need to focus on this. C-Boy, however.
Yeah, they just had full eyes on him. They knew exactly where he was, what he was doing, and he just gets absolutely punished, which is unfortunate because he had the upgraded smite and Isma didn't, so that would have not been a fair 50-50 had he been able to stick around. He isn't, and in the 4v4, which is kind of effectively what this match has become, because the AD carries are not paying attention to what's going on around the map, this is definitely going in the favor of the Movistar Riders. Flash burn by Acity, as he knows that if he gets caught out there by another Empower Q, he is going down, so loses his flash, loses his presence on that top side, and little by little, bit by bit, the momentum is going into favor of the Superliga champions.
Exactly, love that little micro there from Marky as well, just body blocking Acity, ensuring that he has to force the flash out, so great job as Movistar secure that Herald, and that was what we was expecting a couple of minutes ago. If you're putting Renekton this far ahead, you're playing through the mid lane so much with the solo lanes, you'd expect that they're going to get the Herald, so Macho ideally would love to get the second dragon and try and put Movistar on, a pseudo timer, right? Make them think about that third dragon. But the problem is, Movistar are just accruing so much gold, and they're going to get more gold once that Herald gets slammed down somewhere on one of these plates. So Macko need to try and, force an issue before some big items get completed, right? You can't really play around top right now that Marky has the gold drinker, so it has to probably be a forced play on the bottom side. Try and get VZZ ahead against Super down here. See if you can force the issue whilst, Movistar are trying to make a play towards the mid lane on the top side.
And this is the thing as well, with 610 getting all that kind of early pressure towards him, it meant that this Tristana early game, which naturally would be able to kind of pick up 2-3 plates just automatically with having that demolish and of course the bomb, you're not getting that, or the explosive charge, you're not getting that kind of power anymore with her, you're not getting that kind of presence. And now you're at a point here with the, the tier being stacked up, you've got the lost chapter, you're very happy here as the Taliyah to kind of keep pushing in on top of this. And speaking of happy, they're happy to kind of look for this fight. There's going to immediately be the Ornhorn. Isma does not get caught out by that just yet. And the crash down from Alvaro keeps him safe. And this is the thing, the Taliyah just stops all kinds of engages right there. They lost nothing and they gained an ult out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not too fussed at all. Dragon spawns in a minute's time as well, so that cooldown is still going to be not available for Macko. So Movistar are quite happy about that. See what they can get done. 610.
Oh, nice buffer there. Gets himself all the CC kind of out of the side of Movistar. And again, that's all it kind of comes down to. These small little advantages that can lead to bigger things. Now, Movistar are kind of without a big engaging ultimate available for them for this next fight. But 610, you do not have vision. You need to make sure you're not getting caught out. The gravity stream is going to be able to push him back. He's trying to do as much as he can. But I think he's just going to be going down. And they say that he's good for the moment because he's able to kite it out. The rest of his team comes in and helps him get out. Now you've got Super coming in. There's not going to be a Zaya joining onto this one here, so it's a natural 4v3 in favor of Movistar. They try to go in on the tower. Supa takes a couple of shots from the turret. FLICKR is not really in a position to defend himself. Flash forward. One more auto attack is good, but Supa gives up his life. It ends up being a 2-for-1 in favor of the side of Macko, and they had their side laners.
both plays start off with a couple of comedy errors from the top laners, but by the end of it, Super as well goes down, flashes forward. The tower was still ramped up, I think, but you can see here, Marky is just tanking tower the entire time. 2 shots, 3 shots. By the time he presses his ultimate, it's pretty much lights out, and the re-engage was also very solid for Macko as a whole, but then Movistar find their numbers back in this mid lane. The ultimate comes out from Super here just to get a couple more autos forward onto C-Boy. The big problem is, he takes 2 shots, then I think another shot into Isma means that that tower is still ramped, so by the time Super flashes back forward to finish off that kill, it's a 400 turret damage shot. So a little bit unlucky, but we're back at it again, Ashin, you're right. Dragon being started up. A lot of ultimates off the table right now, and these are big ultimates for both these sides to actually start off engages.
I mean, the big thing is, in my opinion, is VZZ wasn't a part of that last fight. He was down bot side farming up. He still has Flash, Kens, and the Feather Storm, so he is feeling fantastically safe. But are they going to feel safe? They're going to go for this. It is going to be Marky with the first rotation. You can see there. Don't feel like Macko can really go for this one here. That's a bit greedy there for a ward. They're going to throw down the ultimate as well. The Weaver's will try and stop off everybody. They're seeing if they can put down this 80 carry damage. They will take down one. Double knock up, and Isma's forced to flash away. It's a 2-for-1 trade, and the Dragon in favor of Movistar Riders. And again, they're just a little bit quicker off the mark. I feel like Macko should have just let that one go.
Yeah, not the best fight in the world there for Macko, right? I think once they recognize, oh, hold on, Isma, gonna have to use his flash. Yeah. Really nice pick off there by Isma to get that summoner spell, but yeah, Macko kind of just overforcing the issue when realistically it's a bit of a lost cause. Movistar in front of the objective first. This wall as well just makes this choke a little bit tighter, a little bit more difficult to walk out of, and everyone gets collapsed on, but the Ornn ultimate is good. Confirms a couple more CC in. Isma has to force the flash out as well, so you can kind of see where Macko, their re-engage, that kind of opportunity there is very, very powerful, but starting off fights is still going to be a little bit rough. Movistar this time around, they were the initiators. They were able to pounce and get those kills first, able to just about disengage with that objective in pocket.
Well, 14 minutes now hitting on the clock, which means that the turret plates are gone. You can see 5 plates apiece, but some people got some more value out of it on the side of Macko, but that means we're only looking at about a 1,500 gold lead. It's a dragon apiece. This isn't a bad situation here for Macko, despite everything that Movistar have done, and they've been exceptionally kind of proactive. Great to see, but it hasn't led to an explosive advantage just yet.
Yeah, exactly. Gold is what wins games, and right now, despite the overall gold lead being relatively big, I think Movistar should be able to just engage this unless they want the fight. If you kind of just peek down towards the bottom side, right? Everyone's got, you know, first complete items at the moment in all of the carry departments, with, of course, the exception of the support role, a little bit lower economy. So right now, this game is relatively playable still for Macko, despite the gold deficit they find themselves in. Certainly not the end of the world, but they just need to find a favorable fight in a position where they're not going to be giving up too much. Marky going to do a good job there, just proccing the demolish and getting out. A lot of pressure still being felt up on the top side, but Movistar starting to shift their attention down towards Super, right? It's where they made all of their money in the quarterfinals, getting that man ahead. And right now, he has already got the Kraken Slayer and the B Greaves. Has lethal tempo though, so it does seem like he's going to be going towards a more traditional AD build with that Kraken Slayer first. No, you know, Shiv into Nashes this time around, a lot less poke orientated, but away from builds. It's the Herald that's up right now. And we said, you know, Movistar, they are the ones with the gold lead at the moment. Master Items are still technically even. I feel like Macko kind of just get a bit of an understanding that the overall map state not too good to find contests in. They will give that Herald over. It doesn't really seem like they're going to get too much, maybe a little bit of a chunk, if not the entire tower on the bottom side, which for VZZ is going to definitely feel quite good.
Yeah, you can see the plan for Macko right now is just going to hold off, don't overextend yourself, don't panic.
Oh, okay.
Movistar, they wanted to go for something here. Super gets knocked up. They're putting a lot of damage onto Isma, who doesn't have a flash, and he is shut down. The reset's coming in from 6'10", a hop, skip, and a jump as he's starting to really put in those auto attacks. VZZ wasn't a part of it, but again, Macko very happy to take this. They get a kill. They do lose top tier 1. C-Boy moving in to make sure nobody's taking any too much of a kind of a easy back. But, I mean, if they can crack open this mid lane turret, that's huge.
Yeah, it feels good. You can start to catch waves slightly higher up, move over to side lanes a lot easier. So Macko finding that pick, and this is the strength of Ornn, right? In a composition like this where you can kind of just fish with an ultimate, and in a situation like this, if the ult looks good, just go capitalize, right? Send click in with follow-up engage. C-Boy is going to shred one of the additional tanks that are trying to peel as well with that subjugate, and it just frees up VZZ and 6'10" to kind of do whatever they want. Whilst that was going on, Marky did pick up that top tier 1, so he's already at Black Cleaver plus Gore Drinker. He is super accelerated right now in this game, but VZZ also got a lot of free time down there on the bottom side. still even footing, however, with Super, and of course not being present in that team fight for Macko, surprisingly enough, still winning out means that if he does show up for a team fight, it could be even more favored towards Macko. As we approach this 20-minute mark, that was all we were saying for Macko. It's about coming online with the double AD carry, whereas Movistar wanted to be faster paced in this early game, and whilst they have, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily resulted in an insurmountable gold lead right now.
Absolutely not. It's only about, 1,000 really. Like, it's kind of been equaled up as the waves get pushed back in and out, kind of ping-ponging, if you will. And you can see Movistar sitting up around the Dragon Pit, making sure they can catch anybody out who gets a little bit lazy. But honestly, I mean, Macko don't have to fight this. Macko can just kind of walk away and accept that, look, we're not going to be able to take this Dragon. Let's just soak up these waves. Like you said, we have double AD carry. We've got an Ornn kind of finally getting up to level 12, hopefully getting up to kind of, ornaments very, very soon. That's when this game starts to get a little bit harder here for Movistar. So they're trying to accelerate right now, using Shirley in that mid lane to get down that and get that early bit of pressure before this Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. They want to do what they can to kind of just put Macko in a position where perhaps they have to make a decision between catching a wave, losing towers, and the Dragon. Movistar just going to keep themselves high up. Isma's waiting in the wings as well, but so is Asadi. You can see his position is trying to be in Fog of War, see if you can drag the ultimate through everybody from Movistar. Just kind of hanging out the assassin right now, but it seems like everyone's just going to posture over towards the top side. Just give up this Dragon. There's no need to fight right now. I feel like with Marky on the map with 2 items, he's just a little bit too powerful, so they'll rather give 610 the opportunity to push out this top tier 1, get a little bit more gold, get himself towards that second item, and then they can start to feel confident to actually skirmish and fight once 610 and BZZ, of course, have the Navori Quick Blades in their back pockets, respectively.
Yeah, they equal it back in terms of the gold that they just lost. They keep it within 1,000 gold. They're not unhappy with losing an Ocean Soul. And yeah, look, you mentioned as well how huge Marky is with the Black Cleaver and the Gore Drinker. He is just so far accelerated that you don't really need to be going for a fight like that. Wait till you get your level 14, 15s online. Honestly, you could even let the next one go as well if you're really not feeling it. So this isn't bad for Macko, but I do feel like Movistar, they're going to need to start picking up the pace pretty quickly. I feel like they have an advantage, but it's not enough of it for me to feel safe saying they're definitely going to be able to take this game.
Yeah, exactly. I think BZZ, he's farming up right now. I'm not sure how close he is actually in total gold towards that Navori Quick Blades, but if he's farming jungle camps, I'd expect that he's
close enough.
He's close enough, right? Like, he is trying to soak up as much gold as he can. So once that second item comes online for VZZ as well, I anticipate Macko are going to change their posture up a little bit, a little less defensive, a little bit more aggressive. Movistar, though, want to continue to just strip away whatever gold they can out of these structures, and this collapse means just that. Seems like FLICKR's going to get his base interrupted, but I think everyone from Macko should be able to just walk out. Or if they want to play this defensively, try hold onto the tower they can. Very, very solid trio here to not get dove. If 610 can get access and then play front to back. Yeah. 610 can play front to back, you'll feel pretty good. But how much do they really care about this tower? Realistic question.
A lot, apparently. They care about it a lot. VZZ is sitting on a ward. He knows he was just sitting on a ward there as they try and confirm this red buff for themselves. And again, just slow and surely take, kind of slow and steady wins the race here for Macko. They're not over panicking, they're not over, kind of pushing, but Movistar are doing very well to push in this mid lane now, get a good chunk out of that tier 2, and then keep putting in more and more pressure when they see the opportunity arise.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Macko are looking to do. If they feel like Movistar kind of overstep their bounds a bit, just go for a quick punish, pull the trigger on the Ornal. Movistar, however, I feel like they always want to try and be first to the punch on a play, overbear Macko with numbers pretty much every single time. C-Boy won't interrupt the base there. We'll just let that one go through. But again, no Dragon for 2.5 minutes. I feel like these teams are just going to very happily catch waves, see if they can make it to major item completions. You can see Frescowi quite close to a second item, but as I say it, very cheeky Baron attempt here. I mean, double AD carry, it's not a terrible idea to try and burst through this one.
They want the TP.
Movistar are here, they want the TP. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to get the TP out here of the Chilia and then immediately go for it. The TP's coming in, but they might just fully commit to this one now. Isma's going to have to get over the wall. He goes in straight away, but he's a little bit early. He gets popped out. They're going to try and burst it down. They will. Now the Baron is gone. They can take the fight. There's going to be the ultimate from the Chilia, but Alvaro tries to go in onto the 280 carries, and he immediately gets taken out. Now you can see Super right onto the backside, but he's got himself isolated. There's no one to really help him out, and he's being taken out as well. VZZ is the final damage sword. He cleanses, and it's now a 2v2. It's Click and VVZ versus the solo laners of Movistar. Marky trying to get in and get himself a little bit extra damage, but they get the root down. He goes golden. They all sidestep a little bit of the damage. Flash forward, and the Talia finds her mark. Finally, they shut down everyone. It's a 5 for 3. The Baron went for Macko, but nobody's got it on them.
It's the solo laners of Movistar that come out on top of the skirmish by the end of it. Macko walk away with the Baron, but no one is wearing the buff as they're all going to respawn off the back of this ace. Really smart from Click. Headbutt into Pulverize to keep Isma out of the pit. But you can see, right, Alvaro goes in quite deep whilst an assassination is found by Super. He then effectively puts himself in a situation where he's not getting out any more damage. Isma does his best to try and keep him alive, and then CC VZZ down on Musty gets his cleanse. Marky can't get in on top of VZZ at all. I'm not sure if that first dash connected, but we don't see Marky recast the second one, so never really able to find something. And then Frescawi flash over Click to stop the body blocking from occurring. Really well played on all parts there from Movistar, and Macho do their best to escape with the Baron buff and the kills, but able to make that one work out. I suppose the silver lining is Movistar, with the pressure they were kind of putting down on the map, with no Baron, sieging is definitely quite difficult, right? Your range is relatively limited. You don't have a crazy amount of poke considering it's just the AD Kaiser, right? It's going to be about the front to back, the eventual hope of kind of like diving in with Marky perhaps for an assassination, and Frescawi, of course, kind of providing terrain control with the Ulma and with the Unraveled Earth. So for Macho, getting away with that Baron and sure dying probably doesn't really feel like the end of the world if you can continue to scale up with these double AD carries and look for front-to-back fights.
Oh, Marky. He's trying to go on top of him. He's going to pop away his ultimate. They're going to jump straight back on the 610. He is the one who gets caught out. Now you can see the ultimate from the Weaver's Wall just keeping everyone involved, and they can't really keep us alive. Anyone else there? They're just trying to throw Supa into the front side here. You can see VZZ doesn't really have an opportunity to pop down his feet and do some damage. The Dragon is spawning. They are going to root back everybody here, but Alvaro just kind of keeps pushing forward, knowing that he's not going to be dying anytime soon. 3-man knockup though, and the Feathers are huge. Are they going to be able to keep them all down? That's the thing. There's goes the Feather Storm, but he doesn't have the cooldowns. Ends up being another 5 kills going over to Movistar, and they'll pick up the Dragon. Now they're picking up the pace.
You could start to see the potential montage moment for VZZ, but the cooldowns are just too long for that second pullback of the Feathers. Even though Movistar funneled into that choke, not going to be punished for it, and they get another ace. They're going to get another Dragon, and the pressure now really starts to feel on for Macho. Caught out in that choke as they look to approach the Dragon here, as they are on the retreat, right? They were the ones that had control, but just caught out by this flank of Marky. And we just spoke about how Super's likely going to look for these kind of assassination attempts with Marky onto the backline. Gains access there. This pullback here from the Talia, excellent. And at this point, the fight's effectively over. The frontliners have to try and play Peel for VZZ, but he's not able to get out damage for so long until there's a commitment onto Acidy at this point. Then he starts to dish out the damage, but this pullback here, critical, because now it means as they continue to commit forward, Movistar, another one comes through. That's great, but it's now off cooldown again. The Featherstorm comes in and he's just locked down immediately. Not much he can do, but you can see how low the cooldown is for those Feather pullbacks. He had to have been a second, maybe 2 away. Definitely feels a little bit bad for VZZ in this moment, but Movistar doing what they should be doing and punishing Macho for these overzealous attempts at objective setup. Marky does a great job of that one.
Oh, Super!
VZZ, wow.
He knows there's no ultimate, and that's why he feels confident to shotgun himself right into the backside of VZZ. Really well done, and again, Super just kind of proving why he is just such a hugely touted talent here in the AD carry role.
Exactly, so many people speaking about Super. Is potentially that next. At least see one of the boys and engage here. A little bit awkward underneath the tower, Sheen.
Yeah, Marky. He's got a GA. That's why he's going so aggressively, but now he's lost that one here. Do Macho get anybody else out? There goes the ultimate from the realm to keep everyone underneath the tower. Alvaro will take a fair chunk of damage once that bomb explodes, but nobody's going to be going down, and Movistar Riders starting to feel that confidence we saw them in their quarterfinal, where they're just unafraid to go for any and all skirmishes.
Yeah, just forcing forward because VZZ is dead. It's a 5 versus 4. Marky uses his GA. It looks a little bit wonky at the start of it, right? But Marky stays alive for so long that it just gives space for Movistar to advance forward, take out C-Boy, get the tower. Even though the wave is gone, they're going to get that tier 2 up there as well, share a little bit more gold, and they're continuing to balloon that. They 3 items already in for Super. Got the crit cloak on top of that as well, and he's still got a base again. Feels really, really good for Movistar. They just got to dot their I's, cross their T's. They can look to close out this game 1, and it's been about as by the books for Movistar as you could expect, right? It's a lot of early aggression. They've continued to keep that pace high, and whilst there have been a couple of missteps and smart plays from Macho, you know, trying to get that Baron in under their belt, they've not quite been able to keep up with the speed at which Movistar have thrown down a lot of these plays. But again, I feel like Macho played their game, right? Ashin, we kind of spoke about how they wanted to be that slower of the 2 teams. Look to punish missteps more than really be the outright aggressors more times than not. Not quite worked out for them so far, but the game's not over. Ornn is in the game. Those engages are always going to be critical. All items coming in as well for the double AD carries. It's going to be crucial for getting their DPS up. So we'll see what exactly they can cook up in the kitchen. See if they can find a bit of a pick on a side lane, but it may be a little whiles longer until we get that. As I say, actually, Baron's 1-15, so maybe we're not going to be waiting for that fight too long.
Thing is, though, you got double Lord Dominic's regards here for, you know, your side of Machko, so they're going to be shredding Isma and Alvaro, who try to stand up and kind of, you know, keep Super and Friscawi safe. So right now, it does look like for the moment, everyone's happy to kind of let this one go. Good wards on the backside of this Baron pit.
Oh,
Try and catch him around. Isma looking for a little bit of engage. He's going to be able to find it. They jump straight on the VZZ, who does cleanse, does ult, and does bring his ult back, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. They do take down Isma, and now they're going to try and take out Marky as well, but Marky right in the middle of everybody. He's just doing so much without taking much at all. Finally gets taken down and shut down. It's a 2-for-2, though. That's still good here from Machko. Can they get 6-10 out? Oh, he felt those stones whispering past his butt cheeks as he gets himself back to here. But, I mean, they can still go for this. They still have a Kai'Sa.
Yeah, they still do have a Kai'Sa. They know it's going on, though. That Pixel Ward is giving them all the information they need, so a teleport's going to come through. They have to abandon this Baron. Seaboy's up. He's the one with smite.
Not a 50-50 with a smite, yep.
Oh, I mean, they can actually go onto it when you think about it, right? Marky's dead for 25. Teleport as well. Isma's spawning just about now, so they can look to try and sneak this one away again, Ashin. Movistar have to stop the takedown.
Yeah, 610 needed that fruit so badly. Picks himself up some Honey Lemon. They do not get any kind of knock-up from Acidy, who does have to use himself as a little bit of a human shield, but they're not really trading back this damage as much as they would like. Everyone getting taken so low. Friscawi would love to hit one or two more of these stones at the backside, but he's not quite able to get it. Now you get the TP coming in. There are 5 man back. They're back here. They're going.
That's Movistars.
Yeah, they can't take it, or Machko can't contest.
Yeah, Machko lost too much health on the retreat there. That's going to be a Movistar Baron, and you have to feel that might just be the final nail in the coffin. The engage is kind of coming through here. I feel like Movistar a little bit over-eager because they got that Baron buff. Want to try and snowball the pressure. They can just go quickly collect this dragon as a couple of members reset. Get Soul. And I feel like Machko, I mean, they'll likely try and contest this, right? It's Ocean Soul. If you're dealing with all of these frontliners and the Ocean Soul ticking on top, it just feels a little bit too much. If they give it over, then it feels like that will just be game, if not within the duration of this Baron, certainly very soon. Great target selection on that engage from Isma earlier on. Just kind of stopped Machko from answering throughout that entire sequence of play.
Yeah, most ultimates coming back here for Machko as they look to try and maybe contest one here. The important thing is that they do not have Click's Unbreakable Will, so he is not going to be able to stand up and be counted. They're giving it up. They don't think it's as impactful as they think it is. In fairness, you CC someone to the Oblivion, there's no way in hell they're going to be able to kind of, you know, regen that up anyway, so I kind of understand the logic from it. And they are starting to scale, but I mean, look, scaling is a relative term because this Kai'Sa and Taliyah are monstrous.
Yeah, exactly. We're yet to really see a proper fight where 610 and VZZ can get a proper fight, you know, front-to-back team fight. It's been certainly, you know, touch and go. There have been windows where they've been able to open up, but it's just not been any ideal situation where they're both getting that DPS out. The target selection from Movistar has just been so stellar. Right now, trying to put down more pressure. See what they can do in a 5-stack here. The Machko feels like outstatted at the moment with the Baron buff, the Ocean Salt. The waves are a little bit weird. Marky's got one in the mid lane. Yeah. Maybe they rotate over there. Top lane as well is nowhere. It's in Narnia, so they're not going to be able to utilize that one. But bottom one is starting to stack in now, so maybe they can try and find a little bit of chunk damage. But this is the issue. At this point in the game, you have to try and dive. And diving into Tristana, into Alistar, Zaya as well, of course, is very, very difficult once you get towards the towers. You have to really one-shot target ASAP. Otherwise, things start to get really awkward underneath the tower.
Yeah, as long as this game goes on, we're going to see more and more damage coming in. Click, going to have to use his ultimate just to survive. Does actually survive for the moment. They are throwing in a fair bit of damage. They didn't commit Isma's ultimate, who has to flash away. That was very aggressive. Whoa. Alvaro tries to go in with the ultimate. The Magnet Storm's now been used. They're kind of a bit scrappy right now. Marky, though, runs in, gets the damage down, and Isma picks up 610. Now 4v5. It does feel like Movistar can start to take these structures. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could even just go towards the end here. I think they might have enough space for it. Ocean Soul still ticking as well. Don't forget, bases will come out. Refreshed health bars, but Machko, last legs. Oh, they get the knockdown, they get the crash in. VZZ is dead. You have no damage left, Machko. And Movistar Riders have completed the snowball here in game number 1. They had a game plan. They executed it beautifully. And it is going to be them taking game 1 of this best of 5. Really well done to the Spanish first seed here.
They will take that game one, and Macko, again, I feel like we had a pretty good read on it from not only the AD, but just our opening thoughts, really. Felt like they were going to go for the fast-paced kind of game, try and crack this one open before Macko could really respond. And it felt like, though there were a couple of bumps in the road, and Macko's overall macro play was relatively sound for the most part, finding all of those cross maps, trying to trade back the gold. Eventually, it came to a point where they just fell too far behind, right? And the target selection again, and the access found constantly by Marky, by Isma, onto VZZ, onto 610, was just too much. They could never really guard their flanks, and it just meant that, again, no front-to-back team fight ever happened for this Macko composition. So, you know, hats off to Movistar for executing a game plan which could have very well gone wrong, considering the meta we're in with that double AD carry and the Ornn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, they got the Renekton ahead, and then the Renekton just became such a massive flank threat that you couldn't really kind of go for it. I will call out Acidy a little bit. There was quite a few ultimates where he just went a little bit too kind of single target, where I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I get it, but you need to be hitting those big AoEs. You need to be keeping that for something like Super ulting in on the backside and trying to, you know, assassinate somebody. That's how you kind of catch them out. It just didn't come together really for the side of Macko. But for Movistar Riders, I mean, like you said, they had a composition. They knew what they needed to do to execute on it. And just having these free roaming, kind of moving around champions like the Talia, even just the kind of, you know, the Rel being able to go up and around walls and such, you know, kind of such freedom, it made it so hard for Macko to really find any kind of a foothold in this game.
Yeah, you know, I feel like they weren't actually consistently laying down, you know, strongholds whenever they took over a side of a map or took over an area of the map. Right? I think that one time where that Frescawi Talia ultimate kind of cut them off as they were trying to retreat back to Dragon, and you know, they effectively got picked off one by one, and they could, again, not front-to-back team fight, was kind of the epitome of how fights played out for a majority of this game from the Macko side. So I think just trying to find ways to execute on a win condition of the team fights, right, in a more cohesive manner and not get caught out by these flanks is where Macko want to go, just playing towards their win conditions and making sure they're not being denied as consistently as what Movistar were putting down on the table here.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is only game one of a potential 5 games. We'll see if Macko have got anything in the second one or if Movistar will bring themselves one step closer to Montpellier. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have game 2.